You're totally okay. That's why I didn't want you to think I wasn't paying attention. I was like, is Ethan still out here? That's okay. It's better than me with names. Yeah, no, not at all. How can I help you? Uh-huh. Yes, sir. Just slightly over a square foot. And I'm going to go over that in real detail. I usually start out kind of slow and try to get everybody on board. As you can see, we're still struggling with mix. So we'll get there. It's totally normal when somebody hasn't mixed a ton of epoxy to try to take some time to figure this out. Yes, sir. Yeah. Your initial mix, always 3, yes. Never less. There's no more ones? Somebody's going to be in. I don't know how we can't check that. We had cases and cases. Oh, that's fine. That'll be good then. Should we just have them all mixed?
That's what I was thinking.
But we need a ton of those ones.
We ordered like
500? That's like one box.
Really?
You need literally think about one class will use that. You need like 3,000, I'm guessing. Because usually they use like two per morning, 2 per afternoon, minimum, 4 per day per person.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 400 per day.
Yeah. Maybe I told her 5 o'clock. No. Hold on. It's okay.
The things affecting this mix that's happening right now is the temperature is going to let the product be thin, viscosity enough wise, for it to actually truly mix. If you have cold product, what you'll notice is the more you keep mixing and mixing and it starts turning white, it gets a lot of air in it because it's real thick like taffy. But your molecules that actually need to stick and bond to each other for the Stoke reaction to start taking place never takes place. So you'll end up, no matter how you mix, if it's too cold, you'll always have a soft countertop, because the only real cure that's trying to happen is whenever they finally warm up that job, and then it's trying to bond, so you'll get heat cup rings, a lot of stuff like that. All the things that our installers call us and tell us, no, it was the epoxy, no, it was the mixing process and temperature every time. The other thing that happens is off ratio. Say you're 45-55, you're guaranteed to be softer. Even if it was more hardener creates a softer product, so a softer finish cure. Temperature is a big part of that too. Sometimes we'll actually let this warm up in the container because it's going to harden faster, if that makes sense. So it is. There definitely is, which is why we always use a thermometer. Notice that's all she has in her hand. All right. We have plenty of time mixing on that. Now we're going to add our color. Our color is a white base. One of your guys is right there is going to get charcoal that she'll bring to you. Now, this whole entire container is meant to completely color 2 gallons of epoxy. So I'm going to let you kind of guess how many ounces and how many gallons you have here. Be a little bit artsy. Mix what you think you should. We're going to mix it well in there for a minute, and then we're going to dip the stick in, and we're going to see what it looks like when we pull it out. So, and remember, watch the clock. We're going to mix for another 3 minutes. Now that my white hardener is added, what you're going to notice, now that I added my white colorant into my epoxy and I mixed it pretty well, I'm going to scrape the stick off. This is kind of stupid, but it's a simple way to do this. I dip it back in there, pick it up. If I look immediately, I see the wood exposed, I know I need more pigment, because on the edges of a countertop, it'd be rolling off and you'd start seeing that. So if you're mixing small ratios, instead of trying to divide what you mixed by 2 gallons and divide the total overall ounces in your container and taking 2 hours to do it, it's a very inert colorant, meaning adding more doesn't really soften the cure. So pour what you think you need in there, dip your stick after you mix for a minute, and see if you immediately see the lines on your stick or anything like that. If you don't, you have enough. If you need more, add some. That's what I just went over in class. Explain. Have Randy. Randy's a better communicator than me. Randy, how much does he put in? Yeah, you're supposed to switch containers now too. I apologize. I missed a step, everybody. Take what you've mixed, pour it in your container number 2. I'm being so accurate that I missed something. Grab a new mixing stick as well. The reason being is no matter how well we mixed in that first mixing container, we'd really struggle with getting little bits of A and B off the sides of that container. No matter how well you mix, no matter how long, even if you use a rubber spatula, you're going to have sticky or tacky part A usually stuck to the sides of your container. When you pour it and scrape it out, you have little soft spots on the surface. So since this is a chemical reaction only, meaning there's no solvent in here, so it's 100% solvent product, there's no evaporation, kind of helping speed the cure. Whatever we don't mix properly here will never happen on the countertop. So the reason this is so important is as good as we get it in the container is as good as it'll ever be on your surface. So you cut a step here, you're always going to have a soft spot on your countertop. You can let him mix it too. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fucking dark in here. So we've raised exactly 11 degrees in my container, and that's because of the exothermic reaction that's taking place during the mixing process. So the chemical reaction that hardens the two components is called an exothermic reaction. As that takes place, it generates more heat. The more mass you have, the faster it generates heat. So you got to really watch that. That's how I'm sure some of you guys have seen people where their product actually hardens in the container. Some people do it here in class too. Oh yeah, if it goes long enough, it will. It's 82 degrees now. We started at 74.5. So it's definitely generating heat. So she's 88 degrees. So you got to think about that. The hottest I'm ever going to pour this out of, and I do not share this with just DIY people, we're going to actually let this get to 95 degrees today before we pour it out. What that's going to do is we're working on smaller samples. It'll thicken up quicker because when you let the product get warm and start that chemical reaction and then you pour it back on the surface, that surface will stabilize that reaction. So when you pour hot material out onto a colder surface, the colder surface cools that warm epoxy that's already been, that exothermic reaction has started. If you stop that reaction and slow it back down, the product viscosity-wise gets really thick. So it goes to being really hot and watery and flowing really nicely to thickening up. What's awesome is on a big, tall edge, say you have a taller edge profile, like a 2-3 inch edge. If you do that, and I would let mine get 100, 105, and as I pour it and roll it over, the countertop itself is cooling that product back off because the actual mass of it's cooling the product. It'll slow down over that edge real immediately, and you can get it to stick to really tall verticals like that. Does that make sense? I think that most countertop people do really good on the top surface, and their edges look like shit. If you want to see a guy that doesn't know how to do epoxy very well, he usually does really artistic stuff and then really crappy edges. So that's what we're going to try to cover in class. Letting this get warm is going to allow you to do really nice edges because it's going to thicken up and cool off as it hits those edges. And as long as you don't warm it back up with a torch or something like that that makes it flow again, you're going to be really, really good and have an awesome pattern. Now we're mixing our accent color at the same time right there. You guys keep mixing it just a little bit. Do you see the charcoal? That's our accent. The reason why we like to mix that a little bit early too is we want that to heat up and great as this product. If you have a really fresh epoxy that's real thin viscosity wise and you pour it on a product that's already thickening up, it just spreads out and looks like a worm on it. You're not going to get a really crisp, sharp vein or anything with it. If you use old product that's been setting up to pour in new fresh epoxy that's really warm and nice and flowing, it'll sink right through it and it'll disappear. You'll lose your whole entire pattern. So being similar with your timing, it's going to be simple here in class, but just remember how important it is. So, what's that? You people. I hope that's the biggest mistake I make all day. It won't be. Is that better? Who walked in our front office area this morning in the front of the building? Tried to. So whoever wants to, means you guys that showed up, our flooring class is actually going to be doing our entryway floors, which is a pretty uncommon occurrence because we had to empty all our offices, tear a bunch of walls out. We're putting a glass wall in, a new big desk, and everything. So it should be fun. It's pretty, I think you guys look cool to be able to show people online that you actually did our entryway. So let's just hope our drywallers get out of our way. We had this drywall here on Friday. Can't tell who's in there. Laziest fucking kid. I think every time his boss left, he went and smoked pot in the truck. He'd show back up inside and his boss would come in. I'm like, oh, your boss told you he's coming back to the job. I think he left probably 15 times for 40 minutes. Like, I think he spent 7 minutes on the job. And then he says, oh, I got to wait till tomorrow morning for the product to dry. He ran 20-minute mud. So you used 20-minute mud and you got to wait overnight. Okay. He looks at you like, how do you know these things? It's not rocket science, man. Then he tried to get a job with the electrician. The electrician was complaining about work. So he tells the electrician, hire me. And the electrician, when the kid went back to the truck, is like, he's been sitting in his truck being fucking lazy all day. And now he's trying to get a job for me. Like, if he worked all day, I would probably hire him right now. 90 degrees. What's our checker? Oh, you got one. Let's see which one, because that's the one, right? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Keep it mixed up a little bit. Yeah, as soon as they hit 95, we'll pour it out. Now, do you notice they started mixing before the rest of us? Even though we all poured into the container a little faster, they started mixing the two components, which started the chemical reaction quicker. That's why theirs is hotter than ours.
Yeah, theirs.
Yeah. So if you have it 95 degrees, dump it out on your on your piece. Make sure before you dump it out that your piece is well on your table and that it's centered and leveled on your piece. A lot of times people will have the sample shifted forward or back, and it'll tip to the front, tip to the back. You'll lose a lot of your product off. And the other kind of thing that sucks is you'll do a lot of awesome veins and accents, and it'll all flow right off your piece. So you'll lose your awesome work. So remember here too, guys, all we really care about is that you guys learn the technique, because we're going to pour a lot of these samples. We're going to keep pouring them because we want you guys to eventually, fuck this piece here. We want you guys to leave with one that you finally catch on to how to do the veins and the accent colors, and you're like, okay, that was awesome. So don't worry about if you blow the crap out of it and it looks like shit when you leave and are done. It doesn't matter. You can throw this one away. I want you guys to get good at veining, good at adding the accent colors. And remember, this is white marble, and we are spraying some colors on it and pouring some colors on it. What the customer didn't order is gold and charcoal marble. And that's what a lot of people like me, I have so much fun spraying all the fucking colors that I forget. And I end up with a gold piece that doesn't look anything like white Carrara marble. The gold, trying to mimic a tiny bit of rust, like iron deposits that rusted during the wet polishing of a piece of marble. The charcoal, a ton of it, is ever perfectly white and clear without a little contamination. We're going to spray a bit of charcoal. Spraying it using our powdered pigments, mica powders mixed with 99% isopropyl alcohol. The only ones I usually use is 91 or 99. If it's a real dry climate and it's really hot outside and you're stuck mixing where you have a lot of heat, you might run it down to a 91%. 9% water will really slow down the evaporation and give your product time to actually mix, and the colors will look better. Does that make sense? It does, doesn't it? Yeah, that's what I thought. So, all right, we're all close enough to 95 now, I believe, are we? Yeah. We'll just go ahead and dump. Remember, you're dumping 12 ounces per, so don't dump all of the contents on just one and not the other sample. So, 95, I'm sure the rest of you guys are too. Now we're going to share a paintbrush at the table. So each table is going to share a paintbrush. I know that sounds like such pain. It's usually only cranky ladies that get mad about that, but. Tiny bit on your forehead. Just on your forehead. Now try to either coat all your edges or none of them. Since it's going to drip over, I would prefer coating all of them so your samples look even and uniform all the way around. If you see a brush fiber starting to pull out, pull that brush fiber all the way out before you brush it off into your piece. If you see that you lost a brush fiber or a piece of dirt or particle in your finished product after you spread it, be sure to grab it and pull it out. Has it been rainy out in Fresno all week? Yeah. Really? Did you drive? Oh, that's a tough drive. Oh, you came up the 15 to the 70? Yeah, that's a tough drive right now in the winter. Remember, guys, we don't care about just being even color across this. We want the product to be as even on the surface as possible. So I usually finish off brushing in multiple directions across the top to try to ensure I don't have any thin spots that are barely covered color-wise but don't have the correct thickness of product down. Does that make sense? So just, and you're also trying to do this without brushing a bunch of product off the piece. Really responsive class here. Yeah, if you have product sitting in your container, no reason, dump it all out. You guys mix the correct amount of product that you need on the piece. So if you have product in your container, you're wrong, dump it out. Unless you're trying to keep it for like a grandkid or to give the flight attendant so you have a free drink, or, but your piece will look like shit. If you didn't need that much product, trust me, I'd save the money and not take to mix it. Now you guys see that we dumped the charcoal out between each one of your pieces, right? That cure is taking place at the same rate as the cure here. So that's really nice actually to have the two happening like that. It'll make it a lot more workable on your piece. Take your time, finish spreading your pieces. I'm going to judge the shit out of this artist girl. Just kidding. But not really actually at all. If she's awesome, she's going to work for us. If she sucks, she's going to work for herself. Was that tough?
damn thing. Just listen and be as receptive to the way you do things, because
I'll figure it out. You'll love this, and you'll do well.
I'm already learning. Like, I've never once taken the resin that I've used, so I already know.
Right? Oh, we'll figure this out. It actually puts so much air into it, unless you're doing really high volumes carefully. It'll usually, he wants to know if you're using a power mixer like a paint paddle on a drill. It'll usually, especially with a gallon and less, it'll put so much air in it, you'll have a really tough time even getting all the air out. The thing that sucks is if you do a good pattern on this and you torch it enough to get the air out, you just fucked your whole pattern by torching it 82 times to get that air out. It would have been slower and better to get paid to mix by hand, small volumes. Now, if I'm mixing 5-gallon pail, which I've done a ton of times because I've been on jobs by myself where I just want to knock it out and not bring a helper to mix 1 gallon at a time the whole time. I've done it a ton, but I'm very careful to mix a little longer, slower, so I'm not putting air in it, and I'm really watching my heat. So, and we'll go over that. We're actually going to pour some pieces in class. So, but very valid question right there. That's something I did wrong so many times, and then finally I just became against it because I'm not trying to teach you guys to do something that you're going to go get paid $10 a foot for. I think the minimum you should ever have to bid, I mean, commercial, you'll be down around $40 a foot or something like that if you do a lot of square footage. But doing a countertop, there's no reason, and I don't care where the fuck you're from, $55 to $85 a square foot. And people that don't get it don't know how to bid or aren't doing enough samples to sell. So, what's that? Unless it's at Disneyland. You might be just trading tickets for your kids. I don't know. Right. All right. I'm going to go on. Now that you guys are mostly done with your pieces, I'm going to go to probably the most misunderstood application we have. Everybody loves using a torch because there's fire, or they're afraid of it, so they'll never use it. Think about this. The temperature, raising the temperature in the container loses us a lot of time, right, to actually work with the product. We're also doing a white, which you can burn easily, right? So as fun as this is, you got to be quick and use it to warm up the product and self-level it and burst air bubbles. That's the only reason. So watch, I'm going to put the fire very direct and very close, directly on it. A lot of people are like this. It's not doing a fucking thing. It's just like waving at it or something with the flame. But I see artists are always doing shit. Be organized. When you mow the lawn, you're an organized person, so. But you notice, I'm not letting it stop to create any smoke, or it will burn this piece. You'll notice a ton of micro bubbles bursting when you do this, which is what you're trying to do. I'm usually going to run it one direction, and then quickly, an opposite direction. Something diagonal to the first. Now you're done. As much as you just had so much fun with your torch, stop fucking torching it after that. Everybody's big problem is they love torching and they torch a piece till it becomes unworkable. Think about this also. While we're adding accent colors, the person that over-torches a piece is going to have a totally set up piece that they can't add anything to. So if you want working time, don't over-torch. Did you get it, Dom? What? Good job, Dom. It's the nicest. What the fuck are you wearing? Holy. I'm so proud of him. Good for him. I'm so proud of him. I am so proud of Dom. Mr. McNiggins. You can use the lighting too, reflective lighting, a lot to really check your piece for divots. It's really good to walk down it and try to see it from different angles. Yeah, exactly. You'll really see in the reflection any dips or anything. What's that? No.
I need to do it again. There's still a little.
Oh, you'll be fine. Especially with how much we're going to still. I thought that was a green wig for a second. He had his back turned. I was like, the fuck is it? That smoke break must have been a good one. Maybe I'm in the wrong bit. Maybe I should be doing drywall. How do you do drywall? This is how you roll it. In the truck when the boss isn't there. All right. At the fronts of the classrooms, you have a gold
I have one on
every table, a gold and a charcoal. We're going to start out with the most contrasting color because we may want to cover it. Now, I was fortunate enough to go to Brazil and look at a badass stone quarry, and all the stone in this super fancy quarry where they sold this high-end stone looked boring as shit when I saw them cutting it. And I'm like, how are people paying for that? And they said, you got to wait. They kept washing it down with hoses and wet polishing it, and it got prettier and prettier. As you saw the stone that had sat for days sitting out there, it had all kinds of spots on it, and that's because the copper and the iron in it had started to patina. So a lot of times what was real boring gray stone started turning real awesome after they cut it a few days of exposure to oxygen. So they throw sticks between the slabs as they tipped it up, so when they washed the hoses, it would continue to patina and whatnot. So that, remember, a little tiny rust spot from a speck of iron is all we're looking for with this. So spray and get your pattern down below. That's enough, even though it's not working. So you notice a few little speckles on this. You guys can probably see the screen and see that the piece doesn't look gold. This customer didn't buy gold marble. So then I'm going to take a tiny bit of charcoal, get my pattern down below. And just barely fleck it. Also, make sure that if you do little speckles or veins, they're not consistent, like every 4 inches of a vein. Yes? Yeah, and they're going to finish them up here, and they'll pass them back to you. Sorry about that. We don't have quite enough of every color to give every table both. I apologize. Yeah. Or they won't, because some of these people might be inconsiderate. I doubt that, this group. The only thing I ever did other than this was a Marine, so that was. Anybody in here was in the Marine Corps? Huh, that's amazing. Usually there's one idiot, the most annoying person in class usually is super proud that they're a Marine too. I was a Marine, but I try to keep the stupid down in class in front of people. It is funny, it's every single time too.
Is that just like mica powder? Just
Let me see that one. That. See, that's.
Yeah.
So usually you never even have to take this off because it doesn't let it in the first place. You just look at that. Look at that chunk. Right back where it came from. I see a lot of you guys making big spots, and that's okay. No, I'm glad you did it. We're going to get better at it. But just remember, the overall look the customer wants. I guarantee you've never seen a single piece of white Carrara marble that looked like this, ever. Right? But you've seen specks in it. So it's good. That's what we're practicing here today. And this is actually probably the best class. Right there, that's best. All right. I'm going to use my paintbrush. You can use a brush or a mixing stick to do this process. And use the old dirty one. You can watch what I do before you do it if you want to. I'm going to add 2 very prominent veins in my piece. On a countertop, it'd be 3 or 4, just wanting to create a really overall large vein pattern, crisscross to break up the countertop a little bit if you wanted to. Then you can start getting some small veins. And this is where you are going to want to be slow, timed, and very deliberate with what you do. You're going to want to be a little bit of an artist here, okay? Make sure the veins you do go all the way from one side of the piece all the way off the other side. If you turn around, when God made the rocks, he didn't have to do that, so don't do that. No little U-turns. Also, try not to make a tic-tac-toe pattern. Be very random. I'm not feeling it today. I feel like they're just not coming together very good. And this is Dominic, by the way. Dom, did everything go good for you this morning?
Oh yeah, better than expected.
How old's Dominic?
19.
Dom's been bettering his life for a long time now. He's got a manslaughter. No, I'm kidding. Don't be afraid if some of your veins look ugly. Huh?
They look like you had too much coffee.
Yeah, you're fine. The little squiggles. Yeah, if they're squiggling too much, move a little quicker. You'll really learn that when you're dragging a vein across here, the speed that you pull it at and how close to the piece is really important. And like how she waited till she was on the piece before she started dragging, she's completely wrong. Don't be like her.
Oh, I think it looks nice.
Being a dick. But just so you know, that's wrong. And when you come up on your piece, let it start dripping, and then you go across. Because you'll never see a vein in the rock where whoever put it there waited till it started dripping off the brush and then went, so there's a blob, and then it looks like a sperm donation. So, no. By the way, that creepy doctor that impregnated like how many ladies?
I don't even.
Did you see that shit? That's from our town.
Sperm donor? Yeah.
Yeah, he was a fertility doctor or something.
Yeah.
They found out that all the babies that he was giving were all his. So that's one other. We should find his address so people can go by his house to view it as one of the national treasures of our area.
There you go.
I just cannot believe that the doctor would ever even.
And like, what satisfaction did he gain from that?
That's what I was like. Wow, that's a weird, creepy. He was probably with that Epstein guy. Especially Grand Junction, come on. A doctor could have impregnated all those ladies without tricking them, probably. What's that? He hasn't suicided himself yet. Hillary hasn't showed up in town. Yes. I love the fact that Epstein's dead, but I do wish he would have added more people before he died. He deserved to have had to talk first. Did you see this morning they said the co-pilot of his plane said Bill Clinton flew on his plane more than 40 times? Huh?
I was like, I feel like I'm going to overdo it.
It's not bad. Try to get into some of this and create like fractures off of some of these. Just to play with, just practice it. Because we're going to do it. After this, we're going to do opposite colors, same exact process. So this practice is really good for our soapstone. And then we're going to probably come back and do another white marble. How did it go, Dom?
Pretty good, pretty awesome.
Was the judge really cool?
Actually, I didn't even talk to a judge. I just talked to a district defender.
Oh, okay.
And basically he dropped it to permitted driving, which is a lot less severe, I guess. And,
When will you have your license?
yep, and he dropped the speeding as well.
Holy fuck, 27 over. You better feel lucky.
Yeah, honestly.
considering you were wrong.
The only reason he did was because he didn't see it on the ticket at first, and then I was like, oh wait, I got it, for speeding as well. And he's like, oh shit, yeah, I just noticed that. And I was like, oh, that's why he let me keep my license and dropped it. So,
No kidding.
yeah, I got lucky.
Very lucky. Good for you, though.
Thank you, man.
A lot of success in life has to do with luck. A lot of lack of success in life has to do with luck that wasn't recognized. Some people think that they just have never got a lucky break, but they've had a lot of things just like you just had.
Exactly. He's just like, no offense, but I never want to see you here again. So.
Good. Now you can quickly torch your piece if you want to knock down some of the bubbles and see kind of your progress. See the pattern you worked on. Don't over torch it, you'll still burn that white. It's not terrible, I'm just not feeling like I'm getting very good. I feel like I need some really crisp stuff that's like,
More crisp black.
yeah,
It was really black before you torched it.
it was, and
Interesting. Is that
it's
kinda
because
on
the
your-
white is a liquid pigment that'll really swallow everything else. Those liquid pigments will really just swallow any other color.
So would letting it sit longer help you get black?
Yeah, it would. But that's kind of good for them to get the timing down.
I think he just added a whole bunch of small.
You guys notice as you torch it, some of the black veins kind of fade and turn more gray? That white really encapsulates any kind of color. It's a very heavy pigment, so if you ever want something to disappear in a white, just torch it and it'll usually sink in the white, and the white will be the more predominant color that'll stay on top. Did you have a good weekend?
I did have a good weekend. How was yours?
Very good.
Good.
Did you do anything exciting?
No, it's just hung out. It's kind of nice.
I went to the park with my kids. And, so funny, like, it's very good. What's that? I think it's simple. There's not too much to it, which I like.
Black marble stuff around.
Somebody trying to fix my flight from Denver to London. Like, I don't think I bought a ticket to Denver to London.
Like,
Apparently, I have a trip scheduled that I didn't know about.
are
And
we
they're like,
doing-
we're trying to squeeze your flight in.
What?
Yeah.
You're like,
I'm like, maybe I need to go.
sounds great.
Yes.
Are we doing soapstone, black marble after this?
Yeah, soapstone.
Soapstone?
You know, we could do the black marble. That's fine. Let's do black marble. That's cool. Yeah, they may as well. Sometime when you're done torching, grab your clear alcohol that you each have on your table and don't spray your whole piece down, but speckle it pretty heavy with some very large droplets of alcohol. You're going to see if you have any thin spots, they're going to leave fish eyes. This will also break some of your veins and leave a really crisp fractured look that you couldn't have got from dragging it. It'll only happen if you speckle very, like droplets. If you spray a mist, it'll just blow everything out and it won't change it at all. Yeah, what you just did.
Is this where we use the torch after?
No,
Just kidding.
that's, you know what? Thank you for being fun.
It'll make it more subtle.
That shows me she's actually smart enough to not be the person. Trudy's not the person.
Today.
That's awesome. I love that. Very simple.
It is, and I cleaned it up a little.
Drops of clear. Yeah, splatters of clear. Yes, ma'am?
See, and I even like this in the bowl. But if I look down here, I kind of see little dips, but it could be just a...
Well, as that alcohol evaporates, it'll flow back in if your epoxy is not too thin. If your epoxy is too thin, where you speckled that on it will stay as a depression. Now, I personally would try to practice some veining, even if some of you guys don't want to. Some of your samples will have some veining on your countertop. And remember, I don't give a fuck about this piece. You need to learn the process and the technique. So I would get some charcoal and do some veins. I hate to say this. Just practice more on your next piece.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
That would mean I'm a little too low on my epoxy.
No, that could still be evaporating back out and you'll be fine. Yeah. And remember this, guys. This is something that I'm kind of a pet peeve of mine in class. I know a lot of times the sample or the technique for the sample is something that you guys do your sample and are like, well, I don't really like that. Do you want to know why I don't care what you like? Who else doesn't care what you like at all? Trudy's right. The customer. Your customer's never going to be like, oh, I loved it and wanted it, but since you don't like it, I guess you just don't have to do it. They're going to be like, oh, I just won't pay you when you're done if it's not what I like. So that's why I'm trying to make sure you guys practice techniques so you get whatever your customer wants, they get. Because I want you guys to get paid. Just a speckling, like where you're just letting droplets hit it. Oh, that's awesome. That or the brush, either one. But remember, guys, we're not in a hurry here, and we don't care what this piece looks like. We just want you to get the techniques down. So practice doing your veining, practice when you torch it, practice when you speckle it, because I don't want it to be a surprise on a countertop when you have to do it the first time. I want you guys to be really, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen. Y'all see this on my paint stick? I'm going to drag this really low to the surface. I'm going to get it to drip all the way down my paint stick here. It's just a technique. I'm going to drag this all the way along the surface, right over the surface, almost touching, but I don't want to drag the epoxy that's already there off. I'm going to speckle some pieces and spray some wet area right before I do it. You can watch on the TV if you don't see it. I'm trying to create a very thin layer of mixed colors on top of a very thin layer of epoxy. Again, I don't really care what this piece looks like because we're practicing technique. Do you see how it broke where the alcohol was sprayed? Do you see it right there how it broke? That's alcohol under there. It wanted to be at the surface, so it pushed the epoxy out of the way. So down here, I had a bunch of speckles all here. And it just separated on every single one of them. Now, instead of torching, I'm going to spray a fine mist of alcohol. It did exactly what the torch did, right? It popped my air bubbles, smoothed out the piece. I'm sorry, dude. I'm really glad for you, man. So when do you get your license?
I already got it.
You have it, have it. Oh, man.
I just didn't get it taken.
Are you all set up with your van to drive?
No, I have to still get the title.
Truck. You never give me his number.
I know. I'm still waiting on him. Trying to get
You don't want me to piss him off first?
Yeah.
Some guy sold this kid a truck. He's 19, took $1,000 from him, down payment. Then he wanted another $1,000. Truck doesn't totally run. He paid off everything that was agreed on now. Guy still hasn't given him a title, but he doesn't want to give me the guy's phone number so that I can go try to help him get a title. All I can say is if somebody takes $1,600 from a 19-year-old, you could,
Right.
Or give your mommy his
Give him his number. Let's go around the time.
yeah. So that's, like, you have something worth $1,600. It might be your teeth. I don't even know.
We're learning how to epoxy butt cracks.
Yes. With people against their will. Yeah, you're looking for little divots. And remember, we really have to come back to torching if you don't want it for the look. Then you would want to, yeah. It depends on how much you sprayed on. You're going to want to really be able to get down and look in the reflection. And if you see a divot in the piece that looks like there's fluid in it, that's just alcohol. And it's always better to be a little more cautious than less. If you have to wait 20 minutes, it's fine. We could probably run to lunch really quick if we didn't stay too long, come back and finish these. I mean, we do have time. Yeah, usually impatience gets you before the actual product sets up your time.
So when I was dragging the paint sticks, wasn't it on there? Like, looking good. So I'm trying to use alcohol to break it up. I'm just trying to learn if I accidentally do it. You see how so I did, it left you with blobs? Like blobs. So I go and I.
Not with your rag. You probably have alcohol on your rag.
Somebody did it. Aren't you proud? And then you just.
You're good. You're good.
And then you go. But if it runs out too fast, it does that. So I just did the alcohol on top to try to make them.
I personally think your piece is just fine. It's nice and simple.
But I'm just practicing.
No, I think it looks good, and I don't think your droplets look that bad either. It's usually when they scrape a big bunch of charcoal up and let a blob hit the piece, and then it's pulled across the piece. Yeah, and then it doesn't. Since your colors are so similar there, it's going to look really good.
How long does it take to not mess with it? Like saying, no, I don't like that. No, I want to.
You know, when you start wondering if you should stop and leave it alone, that's when you need to stop and leave it alone. Yeah, I'm terrible at that. You got to stop touching it when you think you. I'm the one that just keeps going and ruining stuff. I've done that. Well, you need a whole lot more for that technique than you have there. You probably don't have enough. You know what you could do? Steal from your partner, because she has a ton. Look at all that. Run that across. You can take it from here if you want. Really low. The lower you are, the more it's going to pull that little sheet off onto the other. And if you had any alcohol underneath it, yeah, no, that's perfect. And again, not necessarily maybe on a big countertop you'd have one vein ram like that across through your sink or something like that. It's just important to know how to get that look.
Do you want me to do that?
She is itching for that. Watch her. Watch yourself. I've also seen that one fire got so big so fast. Yeah, just think about this. You touch it with your rag, but your rag had alcohol. Throw the rag on the table had alcoholic plastic. Like, you could end up going from, a little tiny fire to real fire real quick. Then we throw your body on top of it to smother the oxygen. All right, we're going to do something a little different here today. Slide your sample back or set it back on your table or set it down the table. Take some time cleaning your table so you have a spot for that sample to set on the far side. and set it far enough over, maybe on an extra container. Dom or them will help you grab some extra containers to set stuff on. I was like, yeah. What happened?
Oh, the Instagram live video is just closes out after that.
You have to keep restarting?
I think. I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Will they allow longer than 9 minute max? No telling.
I can go ask her. But
There she is. Is,
Tucker.
cool. All right. All right, so when you guys start mixing again, you're going to mix in a larger container that they're getting you, these 4-quart containers. You're still going to mix a total of 12 ounces per person. So we only need 2 people mixing, and I'm not going to wait the 4 hours it would take for you guys to do this math. I always ask, if you have 96 total ounces divided by 8 people, right? Nobody ever knows how many people they can mix with a total of 96, how many boards that goes to. It's 8. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 person from that side, start a mix. So do half of 96, which is how much? 48. 48 of resin, or 48 of hardener, 48 of resin for a total of 96. And we don't need 3 people doing this, we just need 2 people doing this. So 1 person from this side, 1 person from this side. Hey, Dom. Oh, you're good. No, do what you're doing first. You're good. Oh, why is there so much shit all over this table? Is this container busted? See over there?
Oh yeah.
What's leaking forever or what?
I didn't know it was leaking, but
It just keeps, I kind of cleaned it up once this morning.
I think when we were moving around the tables it fell. Half broke off. There might be
Just keeps dripping. It's fine. It's no biggie. That's fine. So we're going to have 2 mixing groups for a total of 96 ounces. So we have 8 people on this side of the room, 8 people on that side of the room. This is one of the smallest classes we've ever had do this. That's perfect. 2 people mixing total. So if you want to help, you can help. But remember, we only need 12 ounces per person. Yeah, no need to clean up wet epoxy. Fresh mixing sticks. You always figure out.
Do you want me to mix anything? White pearl?
Yeah, we will need. We'll have them mixed. Do we have, well, is there a volunteer that would like to mix an accent color for us? Yeah, we'll do them in a bigger one, I guess. No, that's fine. That's fine. Because it's white, so we'll mix a little more because we're going to lose a ton of it at first.
too for the accents?
Yeah.
Did somebody want to mix the accents for us?
I think they're. All right, once we have our A and B, we'll watch the clock, we'll start mixing, and we'll watch our temperature.
How much do you?
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, 32 is plenty. We've never really done a black marble except played around with it, so it's kind of whatever we want to do.
I think it'd look better with pearl.
Dominic made the call, we'll do pearl. I'm okay with that, Dom. It's just a different look. I don't know that it's better, because remember, we want to be let's watch what it looks like, and let's do one the other way someday and really see which one. Because a lot of it will be the technique. Like, does the pearl float? Does it settle in the black? Does the white pigment will sink, I'm sure, because it's very heavy. So you'll be losing some of it. Sometimes that can be a good thing when you're working with a class. People that are going to go overboard, and then they're not going to disappear, thank God.
And when you pan it too, it kind of brings it back up.
Yeah, it's fine. But just to know what each product does and why. But I think that's a good idea. We do pearl. Just make sure you do it heavy, because you guys never mix enough pearl, ever. So way more than you'd normally do. $90, $95 actually we were doing. Yeah. It should be at 80 by the time they're done mixing with like 3 and 3. Creepy ice cream truck music I ever heard. Don't go near them, kids. We have the cheapest man in the world that drives past my kid's place. Oh my God, they always like, I want to go to that. I'm like, don't talk to that guy or he'll wind up dead. I don't know what he looks like, but his van drives past, and I'm like, I'm not eating anything that comes out of that van. His van has like 3 different color tires and wheels. And it's like, yeah, it looks more like you're here to grab kids. And I'm a little overly protective, but it's totally worth it. Yes. Hey, let's get it out a little cooler. Let's get it out a little sooner than normal, because we're going to go to lunch and let them come back. So, yep, that'll be better. Same as we do on a big job, trying to buy ourselves time. Yeah, I do. I've been over 3 minutes. Have you been over 3 minutes? Okay, yeah. We're going to get this out a little bit cooler. We'll kind of see what your temps are, but I'm guessing they'll be around 85 when we pour it out now, because we're going to go to lunch. We're not going to torch it, and we're going to come back and finish our piece and try to simulate like an hour and a half worth of mixing and setting without torching, see if we can still get our accents down. Make sure you add your black pigment. when you switch containers. Sorry. Our accent color is going to be white pearl powder. You'll notice that the liquids and the powder pigments they just react a little differently when you pour them in the product. So if we were to pour a white liquid pigment, it's very heavy. If you did a bunch of veins, they'd be sinking in the black unless you let the black kind of set up a little bit and become a little harder. So we're going to use white pearl that's going to have more of a tendency to float on top and mix better. So after the transfer, you're going to switch containers with the epoxy, add your pearl powder or whatever your black pigment and mix. Unlike how I incorrectly did it the very first mix. Remember to do your stick test. Remember, that's the same as the front edge on a countertop. If you immediately saw it, you're going to see the front edge of your countertop right away. What's that? Yeah, You've mixed long enough. Don't make sure you're hitting your temp on the. I was just going to say, let's make sure we pour it all out at 85. I'm a little bit low. Yep, I want everybody's piece to be the same temp. So yeah, if you're at 85, pour it out on your boards and start spreading. Hey Tom, check mine. I used an old temp pen, so I'm going to see what I'm at.
Probably 83.
Okay, cool. Yeah, hey Dom. Oh yeah, if they've poured it out because it's hot enough. Now make sure as you pour it out that you go back around because some of these look like there's probably not enough. It's easy to pour not quite enough when you're trying to service 8 people. Make sure that you get it all out of the container. Keep adding more and more to each one until that container's empty. I would switch and use a new one. And like I say, you guys can share a brush per table. It's pretty easy because you have plenty of time.
I was doing it earlier, and it was like the same exact temperature.
Just at 80 and then 85.
Let me see it though. You were pointing them next to each other, so there are drastically different positions in the container. So watch this, kids. We're gonna want to hit our same exact spot in the container to truly, you're doing like this, one could be hitting the stick or the side of the container.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to do this. You're 83.7. So it's 2 degrees.
2 degrees? It's not terrible.
83.7. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was like 74 or maybe within 2-3 degrees, that's plenty.
You're okay.
It's enough to know I need to get it out or I need to mix more.
Yeah.
You know? Keep doing that, Whipple. Just see what you think. What's your temp?
76.
Yeah, make sure you have plenty of pearl in there. Non-pearl addendum.
No, you're good on yours. You have about.
Make sure you pour everything out of the containers, guys. We don't want to save it in there for any reason. If somebody looks like they don't have enough, dump the remainder on there.
So are you planning to come back into the vans?
Yep.
But this is.
We'll dump it out, though. I'm right. You're right.
You're right.
This is just kind of a test and a proof of the time. Now this is just a standard epoxy. Do not torch it at all. We're going to wait. We're going to come back and finish our pieces. If you torched your piece, you're going to be the one that doesn't have time. Now that mine's all spread, I'm actually going to dip into what I had earlier. Black and the white pearl. I'm just going to cross brush a single direction, a tiny bit of that white into my actual piece. Not mandatory, but you guys can kind of see what I do with this. No, same. Or pour it out a little, if you can, actually, a little cold. Dump it. If it's been mixed long enough, dump it. Because we want the most. You're fine. Do it the rest of it here now. Yeah, you're good. So that's all I'm doing is I'm pouring some of my product on there and spreading it evenly. A lot of that's going to be by the time we get back. I'm going to speckle my gold on there. Too heavy? Cross brush. brush it. Brush some of it in. Just really lightly dragging your brush across the top. If you go kind of leave a skip trowel pattern on there. Ready at 11:30, right? Ready at 11:30? Okay.
Totally torch fine. I was too busy mixing. I didn't hear you say that.
You're fine.
So we'll be okay.
You're fine. That's perfect. Perfect. A lot of that you'll see will just start disappearing too as the day. Like, yeah, because the white's heavy. That's good though, because it keeps a super natural look as it settles over lunch. And sometimes if you do techniques or things like this and just give it time, it'll do what artistically you never could have done. Oh, really? Just by because it'll be so non-consistent how it'll settle, if that makes sense. What I mean. You're not between us. I don't know Andy well yet, but you're not going to come between us.
Should we keep adding?
That's perfect how you already did. I wouldn't anymore. I like that. Nice and simple. These girls will actually get paid because they're not going overboard with anything. I like that. Both of them are very tipped. So you notice both of those are really tipped. I don't know what to do about that, but you lost all your product off the face. Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's nice looking.
When you've done the gold, you can brush it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. If you feel like you have too much, maybe.
And it's okay to get.
Oh, yeah, you're good. Because we're going to lose all that anyways. We're just doing that to kind of leave some weight. Because we're going to go to lunch. This will do a lot of the job for us. So if you're on a big countertop, you'd be dipping in and brushing some white across it, spraying some. You'd be looking for a very random pattern. If you're on 100 square feet, you don't have time to manipulate every square foot. So that actually looks really good. I like that. It already looks simple and done. Yeah, no, I bet you got skill. These guys, they're probably actually professionals at something they do. Ronald. How about them Broncos? But freaking natural. Seriously though, like if you just not being too much product like that, you almost can't go wrong when you're not adding too much. You can make a mistake is if you had a big, huge blob of white, then you're like stuck trying to disperse it. But doing small amounts like this, the customer may say like, we'll add more, that's fine. We're gonna be doing a clear coat anyways. You can always add more, you can't take it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't go overboard, guys. No, that's perfect. No, and we're going to be manipulating all this quite a bit, too. All right, we're going to eat a plate. It's called the Warehouse 2565. A lot of people are looking for like another warehouse we own, so we're not taking you to that place. We're taking you to the Warehouse 2565. It's on 2565 American Way. It's a really good restaurant. Of course, we pay, so don't be worried about needing to go smoke weed instead. Please don't come back high or drunk. And I don't pay for drinks at the restaurant. So, well, iced tea and fun shit, but not alcohol. So yeah, have fun. Carpool if you can. If you're riding with us, you will make sure you don't have any epoxy on your ass, your elbows, or anywhere else. So make sure you inspect each other's butts or whatever you got to do before you get in my car. If it's in your car, it's your business. So the Warehouse 2565. Yeah, you can follow us. I'll be taking a Yukon there, or whatever, a Denali, or a truck, something. Something here will be leaving right out that door, whatever key I got in my pocket. Hey, you guys have fun. We'll be back in about an hour and a half, and we're going to finish these. We're going to kind of try to prove that we can literally start a project if we're not over-temping our product. We still mixed very thoroughly. We let it get 85 degrees, and we're going to come back in about an hour and a half, and we're going to completely manipulate all our veins, finish our pattern, and be done. So, on the job, that's important to be able to do because you might be an hour and a half stuck in different rooms mixing and applying patterns. So here we want to prove you can do the same thing just in class. So it's better to learn here than on your customer job.